Hello and welcome to the Athens Women's Football Summit. I'm Dr. Ashleigh Huffman, Program Specialist in the U.S. Department of State Sports Diplomacy Division. I'm so excited that you all tuned in today as this is such an important topic. Shannon, before I introduce you, I just want to give a little context as to who you are and where we are in the sport landscape. So
be nice.
Nothing but accolades to rattle off this morning. So on the heels of the Women's World Cup and all the strides forward in the last few years, I really think that we're on the cusp of something great. We're seeing breakthroughs, not just in the U.S., but in other countries, like the most recent pay equality statement from Brazil, a country that's just crazy for football. We're seeing more women on the men's side, like yourself, in various roles. There's even talk that Jill Ellis is being considered for the DC United job. So as a DC United fan and based in Washington, D.C., I'm pumped. We're seeing more women's sports on TV, more interest from the fans to attend games, more product sales. The U.S. Women's National Team jersey last year was the #1 soccer jersey, men or women's, ever sold on the Nike website in one season. So, and we're seeing intolerance worldwide for things like racism, gender discrimination, and homophobia in sport, which is changing the way society has conversations about these issues. In essence, I think there's a tremendous opportunity to invest in the women's game right now. So I'm excited to talk to you, Shannon, someone very special to me, someone who I had a poster of in my bedroom. You're not even that much older than me, but one of my sheroes.
You're going to make me feel old now.
No, you're so young. We were just a few years difference. And it was just amazing to watch and to grow up in that era, of Title IX, of women's sports, to see the 1996 gold medal team, which you were on, the 1999 infamous 99ers Women's World Cup gold medalists, and for you to be one of the most prolific scorers in American women's soccer history. It's really an honor to have you here today. I'm so pumped to talk to you, and also want to share with you a little bit more about Shannon's background. You went on to coach the UCLA Bruins, an outstanding women's university team, and then the executive director of Del Mar Youth Soccer Club, now a lead analyst for the San Diego Loyal and an expansion team in the men's USL, and an investor and part owner in the newly launched women's team, Angel City FC. If you're not pumped for that, you don't have a pulse, because by women, for women is amazing. So it's going to be lights out. So please help me welcome today the legend, Shannon Mac Millan. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very kind. I've been truly, truly blessed. Everything you touched on, this game has just been incredible to who I am as a person, as a mom, every hat I wear. So I've been very, very fortunate, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's such an honor for me. So, and you alluded to it a little bit. Just to start us out, how about you set the context for us? What has the game meant to you? How has it changed you? How has it shaped you as a leader, a mom, a colleague, a professional? What is it? Why do we need access for girls and women to this sport?
Oh, man, I don't know if there's enough time in the day to really get into the true impact of what the game's meant to me. But, I think back to being in high school, and I was a very shy, timid person. I didn't have a lot of confidence. I was that high schooler that the bell rang, I gathered my stuff, and I beelined to the next class, and I sat down and was the first one there and waited the 10 minutes for everyone else to get there type thing. All of a sudden I started being recruited. And was being promised the world by, we're going to get you on the national team. You're going to come in, you're going to start, you're going to score, you're going to do all these things. And, 17, I'm like, wow, this sounds pretty cool, and being promised everything. And then out of the blue, the gentleman by the name of Clive Charles, who coached up at the University of Portland, called me and said, hey, my assistants and I, we saw you out at the Far West Regional Tournament. We think you're a decent little player. We'd love to have you come up and visit. And this is back in the day when you actually took all your official visits, and that's when you made your decision. That's how I am. And at that point, I had taken 4 trips. And I'm like, well, sure, I've never been to Portland. I've got a free trip, might as well. And so I went up to Portland, met Clive, and then he ignored me the rest of the weekend. And I was thinking, what is this? And then about 2 hours before I was supposed to get on my flight to come back down to San Diego, he sat down with me and he said, okay, we've, talked to the team, we've watched you interact, and we really think that you'd be a good fit here. And I was like, okay, well, am I going to play? And he just shrugged his shoulders. He goes, I don't know. And at this point, I'm like looking around, you know, where's the candid cameras? Is this a joke? I'm like, what do you mean? You're the coach, right? And he's like, yes, I am. And I'm like, so will I play? He's like, I don't know. And I think he saw the look of bewilderment, and he's like, look, I can't promise what you're going to do on the field. All I can promise you is that you're going to be given an opportunity, and it's going to be up to you what you do with that opportunity. And it just resonates still to this day. Many, 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 many years later, gives me the absolute chills, because it just struck a chord with me, and I bit my tongue from saying, where do I sign? Because I fell in love with that man immediately, and that was the turning point for me in life and in my career. And I went up to Portland, and, you know, it wasn't always rainbows and butterflies. There's definitely some bumps in the road, but he helped me to start to realize that this incredible game offers so many life lessons, that from whether you're just a recreational player to someone that makes it all the way to play for your country, it teaches you about leadership. It teaches you about teamwork. It teaches you about overcoming adversity, that it's okay to be a strong, confident, powerful female and to own that. And slowly but surely, I started to be able to look people in the eye and really just feel confidence as a person. And he taught me about how just everything beyond the game, it's, you know, what's more important is who you are as a person and what you embrace. And I think that's helped me. It definitely helped me have the career I had with the national team, and the longevity of it, just because it was never about the medals or that. It was about always doing my best. It was about the moments. And, you know, like you said, having a poster that I was on in your room like that to me, still hearing that stuff is just powerful, because I grew up following my older brother around. It drove him bonkers. You know, he was playing street hockey, football. I was tagging along. He's 2 years older than me. And he'd be like, no, you can't come. You can't come. But by the time we got to wherever we're going, he made sure I was one of the first picks on his team, because he knew. And to this day, I could throw a football on the beach and people are just like, whoa, you know, I'm like, it's perks of having a big brother. So I never had these strong, confident females, the Rapinos of the world, you know, the Mia Hamms, the Christine Lillys. So to have been a part of that team too, it truly helped shape me that, you know, at that point, it wasn't about the money. It was about just elevating the game and giving back to the game and helping to set a foundation so that it is somewhat easier. I mean, granted, we have many, many strides to go, but it has come a long way to this point. But for me, it's about, you know, it's really helped me overcome adversity off the field, on the field, and just appreciate the moments and have confidence. And I mean, so many of those life lessons. And, you know, my son's 11 and he's just starting to realize, you know, what mom did was pretty cool. At first, he's like, why do you want to coach my soccer team? You know, what are you doing here type thing? And then, you know, everyone else is excited except my own son. So it's been fun to watch him evolve in that and meet the 99ers. You know, we were just up at Joy Fawcett's house with Ph.D. a few weeks ago, and it's just to watch our kids now hang out in that environment is just something pretty cool. So there's lifelong friendships that come from sport too, that, you know, people that you can rely on because you've been in the trenches with them. And, you know, especially for us, the main events, the World Cups, the Olympics, we had to go into a residency period because we didn't have a league. So we had to leave family and friends and move together for 8 months to train for this event. So you become sisters and you see each other through death and divorce and marriage and babies and all the highs and lows of life as well. So it's just, again, I feel like I go on and on about that, but it really did help shape me into a confident, not a cocky, but a confident, secure person.
I love that. I feel, yeah, so many things that you said resonated with me. I love how you describe yourself a decent little player. I mean, you're on a poster in my room, so I guess you are all right. And I'll
let you say it. I don't like to toot my own horn. You can say it.
I guess you're okay, you know. But it's that opportunity. I think that was such an important lesson from your coach, right? The opportunity is when luck and hard work meet, and it's like, I can't promise you that you're going to play, but are you prepared? Are you ready? Are you willing to step through that door when it opens? I think that's important for today's generation to hear, that you weren't promised the moon, and that's why you chose that University of Portland. So I think that's really important. Also, you said it's not about the medals, but about the moments, and it's about the friendships, and it's about the life lessons and kind of those intangibles. And That's why access to the game is so important. And it's so important for young boys to see women like you, for your son to see you in a position of leadership. That's incredible, because if I can see it, I can be it. And it changes his perspective on what women can do. And so many things. We could have a whole discussion about everything you just said in question 1. So, but I have a couple more questions to ask you. So 2020. Yeah. Like, I don't even know where you start. I try to think about what my Halloween costume would be for 2020, and I'm like, wow, the material that I have from the year alone. But let's just talk about it for a second. You know, in terms of you're serving in a senior role and lead analyst for the San Diego Loyal, and which is a professional men's team managed by Landon Donovan. And I think you all took a really incredible stand not too long ago against racist and homophobic slurs, and saying it really has no place in our sport. And you forfeited games, you missed the playoffs in year 1 of your launch. And so what is the role of sport in 2020, this social justice movement? What are, as an athlete, what responsibility do we have to each other as athletes and coaches and administrators? And then what does it mean to be a leader in today's sports world, which is forever changed?
Yeah, and that's a great topic. And I think it's a huge burden, expectation. But I think that's how some people look at it. But I think it's a massive opportunity. And any opportunity that you have as a coach or as a leader in your company or as a teacher, you are blessed with the opportunity to truly have a powerful impact on these young people of the world. More so than the parents, because it's just mom or dad saying it. But when your coach says it or your teacher says it, I know that with my own son, it's a little more powerful. Well, my teacher said it's done this way. It's like, okay, then, you do that. But, and I think when you have someone in those positions that aren't ego driven, such as Landon Donovan, and it's truly about the game and giving back to the game and empowering athletes, then you have someone that's in it for all the right reasons and able to make this situation in the stand that the Loyal did. And just briefly what had happened is it was coming down to the wire. It was a shortened season because of COVID and the lockdown. And in the second to last game, there was a racial slur thrown against one of our players in front of the opponent's team bench. And our bench did not hear it, but it was talked about in the locker room afterwards. And Landon was frustrated because nothing was done. The player wasn't thrown out. The coach didn't remove the player. After the game, when it was talked about, it was just, you handle your team, I'll handle mine type situation. And flash forward to a week later, and all of a sudden there's a homophobic slur tossed at one of our players, who's one of only one, maybe the only, or just one of the out players in the league, and I think in soccer world, and maybe most professional world. And Landon found out about it on the spot, and his frustration with the game prior was that if he had heard it, and nothing was done, he would have walked off at that point. And so now it came to the moment that, okay, actions need to speak louder than words. And this is a moment where, you know what, it's beyond the game. It's beyond getting the 3 points. It's beyond keeping the team in the potential position to make the playoffs. And that's a huge, massive decision. And the player that it was said to, it was right before the half, and they talked at halftime, and he's like, let's play. Let's just do it. Let's play. And ironically enough, in that game, they had already reached out to the opponent and said, look, at the 71st minute, which is the time mark that it happened in the week prior, the game was going to stop. And there was going to be 2 minutes where posters were held up, because we spoke about it after the initial one, saying, what kind of message can we get out there? And Loyal came up with, I will speak. I will say something there, because it's no longer okay to just say, I'm not racist, because I'm not. It's more important now to be anti-racist. And if I see something, to say something and to act. So from that initial occurrence, it came out to, I will speak, I will act. And so at the 71st minute of the last game of season, Loyal were up at halftime 3-1 when this happened. I mean, they had the game well in hand, and were absolutely playing the other team off the park. But it was already spoken about coming together at the 71st minute and holding up banners, both teams. So that team was well aware of the incident the week before, but yet this still happened. And so I understand when the players, when you're in it, you want to just bust through and, you know what, let's just go beat the team. Let's go play them off the field type thing. But for Landon and the leadership to go, look, we said we will speak. We said we will act. I would feel hypocritical to be out there on the field holding up these banners when this just happened. So at halftime, Landon went up to the referee and said, you need to remove that player. And the referee, because it was in another language, said, I don't know what that means, so I can't. And Landon said, okay, fair enough. He went over to the other coach and said, you then need to remove the player. And the other coach refused. So at that point, the team took a knee. The other team kicked off. The loyal players took a knee and then turned and walked off the field, leading 3-1. And if you more powerful moment, and you talk about those moments, and it's been picked up across the world, and it's not necessarily that what they were looking for, but the fact that it's kind of brought light to it, you know. And we've seen the negative side of it too. Some people saying that's ridiculous, you should have just played, you know, people not supportive of us for doing that, you know, your athletes, go play your sport, do that type of thing. But no, you have a moment to be an impact. As you said, I was on your wall. Like, these young players are watching us. And if we turn a blind eye to it, then they're going to think, oh, yeah, it's not that big a deal. But if as an athlete you make a statement like this, and you have someone like Landon Donovan who has the gumption and the courage to say this is beyond the game, this is beyond trash talk. Everybody trash talks in the heat of the moment, but there's a fine line that should never, ever, ever be crossed. And Landon wanted to just put that massive spotlight on that. The players were all behind him, the team ownership. One of the moments for me, you know, I'm up in the commentating booth, and we don't know what's going on because we're not privy to the microphones on the field. And you see them kneel and walk off. And as I'm watching, the owner of the team, Andrew Vasiliadis, who had gone to Landon at halftime and said, we support whatever you guys want to do. He finds the player. I don't want to throw his name out there, but he finds the player, and the owner of the team that's been shut down during a pandemic but has stood by the team and kept everyone employed, walks over and walks off the field with his arm around this player. And to me, that's one of those moments. And that creates the culture. This is a team in year one, and the culture that has now been set, that you as a human being will be taken care of and respected here, is powerful in team sports. Because when you step on the field and you know that as a person you're respected and supported, and then you can step on the field, the sky's the limit with what the teams can do. And that is, Landon from day one has said it's about building the culture, and now making sure they have the right pieces and the right players are being brought in and building off of that. So again, it's one of those moments. It was something incredibly proud. I'm trying to not get too emotional about it. But as athletes, we absolutely have the obligation to use any and every opportunity to make sure that it is about love and respect across the board. And like I said, I'm not a racist, but that's no longer just enough. We have to be anti-racist and stand up and speak and say something. Even if it's a friend making a joke, say, that's not okay anymore, and start making things change.
Yeah, it starts with our circle. I think you nailed it in the sense that leadership, we think of so many different definitions of leadership, but I think it really boils down to the word you used, courage, because it takes courage to go against the grain. It takes a tremendous amount of bravery to stand in opposition to popular opinion. And that really resonated with me. And I think, you know, you also talked about the difference really between an obstacle and an opportunity is the way you look at it. So, you know, it could have been an obstacle for your all season, but really it was an opportunity. And to see something and to say something, what an important message in 2020 and beyond. And I hope that in this moment where life is paused and we're all forced to isolate and reflect, that is the change that comes, that if we see something, we say something, that this year was not wasted. Because sport is a microcosm for society.
100%.
What happens there, it's this emotional cauldron where the stakes feel high and the emotions are high. And it's an opportunity for you to practice being a decent human being, right? To be able to control yourself and to be human first, player second. And so I think it just spoke volumes in the, you know, men's football world, but beyond, just in the sports world in general. And so It's awesome to hear you talk about it and reflect on it, having been there in the booth and
Yeah.
seeing it happen real time. You know, I also think it's important for people to recognize your role in this men's organization and now an owner and investor in Angel City FC. And, you know, we hear it over and over again. We need more women at the top. We need more women in decision-making positions, not just to fill a quota, because that's just infuriating, but to change the game, to change lives, to promote a better product, to inspire people. And so you've worn so many hats. You've been a gold medalist. You've been a university coach, a senior advisor of a men's club, an executive director, an envoy, a sports envoy for the U.S. government, a broadcaster, now an owner. And I just want to know from your seat, what can we do to advance the women that deserve to advance? Like, what are the policies and programs that we can cut the politics and just really get down to business on this topic?
Yeah, and because he can hear me, I will say my number one favorite hat, best job, is being a mom. That hands down by far everything. But I really think, you know, it's evolving and it's still coming along. You know, it was 12 years ago that I started as the director for the girls program at the youth club, and you know, helped build up the girls side. And a couple of years later, they said, hey, you know, we need to get some more organization and help build the boys side. Can you do that? And I said, sure. And I remember sitting there in the boardroom with the board and a few of them going, well, it's the boys going to listen to you. And I'm like, look, it's soccer. And it comes down to how you treat people. If you treat people right and, you know, you don't let them walk all over you and you have respect, like, yeah. And so now 12 years later, you know, I'm executive director. I oversee the entire club, the boys and girls competitive, the rec, that. And I think with Loyal, it's a credit to Landon and the leadership. Warren Smith, as well as Andrew Faciliatis, is they just want good people. It doesn't matter. It's not a good old boys club. You know, our athletic trainer and doctor are female, the team manager's female, myself as an advisor in the office. It's very well balanced. And I think it's just a tribute to them of just wanting to find the right fit. Not it has to be male or female. But I think what's really important and what's still a struggle is that women need to be supported. More often than not, we are the main caregivers. Like even right now, my son's distance learning, he's inside with his class. So I have to have the opportunity and the ability to work from home. And in fairness, I'm probably working twice as much working from home because I'm more accessible because I'm in here versus driving to field or meeting here or there. But, you know, and for me, it's really, you know, I just had one of my coaches with the Sharks, the youth club, who had a baby. And it's like, you know, hey, we're here. Take your time, do that. We need to be able to have that be something that's celebrated. You know what? Hey, I can meet with you, but I got to bring my son. But don't worry, he's not going to interrupt. He's going to be well behaved, that type of thing. And having the childcare options, because we are, you know, especially right now, the way things have changed. I've been able to shift everything to be able to work from home because on the days he doesn't distance learn, he's only in school for 3 hours. So what, you know, opportunity, what career is really going to say, okay, other than being a stay-at-home mom, which is a massive job, you know, that's going to allow and support that. So it's really important to be able to say there has to be opportunity for childcare, or, you know, if it is a younger baby and that still need to be with the mom, that, you know, celebrate that, welcome that, and support that. Because I think initially when a job is posted or something's posted, the guys are like, yeah, I can do that and I'll figure it out, you know. And as females, we kind of go, well, you know, it says they want A, B, and C as qualifications. I have A and B. I'm halfway for C, but maybe I shouldn't apply until I really have it. Where men just do it, and then they're able to go in the room and just, you know, spin it and make it happen type thing. I think we're a little bit more cerebral with that and don't want to stick our necks out as much. So they're just, I think, making sure that women are being given the opportunity in all these arenas. And then when they are, is, you know, support that they are the lead of the family too. So, and I'll be honest, you know, a lot of the female coaches that I work with within the Sharks, they're, you know, better at the time management because they have to juggle so much between families and that type of stuff. So there are perks that are going to come along with giving that mom an opportunity versus just jumping in and, you know, getting a man because, you know, what they're, you know, they're not going to have to worry about those layers of things like that. So I think that for me, that's one of the main things, is just making sure we're supporting women and all that comes along with being the lead of the families too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And, you know, providing those tangible options of childcare and flexibility and telework and those sorts of things, yes, that definitely improves. And it's not just a matter of accommodating women. Like, I truly feel, before I took this job at the State Department, I was a professor at the University of Tennessee, and I worked a lot with student athletes. And, you know, I feel like my closest relationships were with the male athletes who needed a space that wasn't so hyper masculine, to be able to talk to someone, to say, you know, I'm struggling with this, or I feel vulnerable in this way, or I need advice. And so I think it's not even recognized the role that strong females can play in having a young man feel seen and heard and validated. And so, you know, I found those relationships to be incredibly meaningful, and I think for both of us. And so I think that's why there's a need, is because there's a hyper masculine space that deserves also the nurturing to say, I'm struggling, that also deserves someone to support them. So, and that, not that that's all we bring to the table. There are many, but it takes male and female energy, I think, to balance an organization. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, it's like, you know, for me with my son is like, you know, we talk things out, you know, and I tell him, you know, he's 11. I'm like, buddy, it's okay to cry, you know, and there's days where he just cries. And it's like, you know, I think so many of our men have been told, boys don't cry, stop crying, you know, and instead we put our arm around him and we say, hey, bud, just get it out. It's okay. And, you know, having him around the 99ers, strong, powerful, kick, you know what, women, I'm like, his eventual girlfriend's wives are going to be high-fiving us, because they're going to be like, I want him to be drawn to that. And I want him to celebrate that and support that and, you know, be drawn to it, because that's someone, when you look at someone like Landon, who has looked beyond gender, you know, it's because he grew up with his mom and his sister. He knows what women bring to the table and that aspect of it. And that's what we need more of, is at the top, these men that are going to embrace that and want that and not be threatened by it, that, you know, a female might have a better idea or this, that, or the other, that, you know, it's about building a good team and working together and knowing that on that off day when you're just having that blah and you don't have the energy or whatever, who can you lean on that's really going to be there and support you? And I think that's definitely what we can bring to the table too.
100%, 100%. And I love the way that you talk about your son. It's so endearing. And I just think, like, what a world changer this little guy is going to be, you know?
No
like,
pressure, no pressure, but we'll see. Great math has me tapping out right now, so.
But, you know, I just think, you know, your son being one example, but many other lives that you've changed through this game, and you have such a tendency to give back. You went out to South Africa for us in 2006 as a sports envoy. You went to Guatemala in 2011. You did this really cool thing that I learned about this week, the Outer Pacific Rim tour on the military bases using soccer. Yeah. And so what is it for you that really motivates you to give back? And how has seeing this sport in a global context and working with girls and women in, you know, maybe underserved communities, how has that really changed you personally and professionally?
You know, those sports envoys were powerful for me. And, you know, I was a kid that grew up in Escondido and took a Greyhound bus up to Portland, 29 hours, stopping in every little city along I-5. You know, it's a straight shot, but 29 hours, you know, maybe $100 in my pocket. So without soccer, I would not have gone to college, or at least a top university like the University of Portland. So for me, soccer afforded me so many, again, opportunities and really helped shape who I am. So I knew when I retired, you know, when you retire and you come out of that world of just living that high and the adrenaline and all that, you will have this like, whoa, what do I do now type thing. You know, I don't have to get up and go train and destroy my body for 4 hours and that. And so I went through this little lull, and then I really sat back and said, what am I going to do now? And because of Clive and the impact he had on me, I'm like, man, if I can have even 1/10 of an impact on at least one kid that man had on me, I know I'll have done a good thing, and I know I'll have given back to the game. So I just wanted to coach and any opportunity. And then the sports envoys came along, and I jumped at that. I remember going down to Guatemala, and we're being escorted around by armed militia. We're like, what is going on? And we're going into the most remote villages. And these girls who have never even seen a soccer ball come to a clinic, and all of a sudden they're ballers. And we're telling, like, you have potential out here. Like, imagine if this girl actually was pulled out of this environment and given an opportunity, you know. And same thing in South Africa. We show up and there's like 2 kids and we open a box of free t-shirts. And we're talking about t-shirts that, you know, probably if in our washers and dryers after 3 washes, you probably wouldn't wear it anymore. But like floods of kids coming out of nowhere. And you're just like, where's everyone coming from? And then they see the ball, and it didn't matter that we didn't speak the language or anything like that. That ball rolled out and there was laughter and there was joy and kids being active. And I think for so many young girls, especially, they're not given the opportunity to see the health value of running around and being healthy and not being, you know, 15 and getting pregnant or experimenting with things bad for your body, you know, doing drugs, that type of stuff. It's like, get out, be healthy. It helps you grow. It keeps you, you know, happy as a person. And, you know, like that's right now too, during this pandemic of fighting, get the kids back on the field. You know, after 4 months of being in lockdown, the look and the joy, it was palpable on these kids' faces after, you know, not being able to see friends, not being able to run around. And last summer, the opportunity came up to do a Goodwill military tour during the World Cup. And, you know, it was bases along the Pacific Rim, and it was just doing clinics for these dependents who, you want to talk about resilient kids. They're in one place, maybe 9 months, maybe 2 years, and then they're uprooted and in another country, in another school. And again, that ball rolls out and the kids are happy. And, you know, they had us on a tight schedule, and it was like here, 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 here. And, you know, it's like you wanted to stay and just to sit down and talk to some of these kids, and, you know, kids that had really good skill because they played in local youth clubs, but now all of a sudden they're stationed in Japan because their mom or their dad. And it's like, man, keep playing, keep using the sport. It's an outlet. You know, for me, I played every sport growing up. I played softball, I ran track, I played basketball, although those coaches might not say I played it that well. I mean, I could say that I didn't play it that well. Soccer for me was, I could have just bombed a test at school, or I got in an argument with my parents. But when I got to the soccer field, that all disappeared. And for that 2 hours, it was me and the ball and my team, and I played. And that was massive and something I desperately needed in life. And to be able to be a part of those envoys, I've had to turn some down more lately just because of being a mom and not having the ability to just disappear for a few weeks. But I'll tell you what, if anyone ever has an opportunity to do something like that, I promise you will take from it than you think, and probably more than those kids, because it's powerful to see what that ball and giving some of these kids a chance to just come out and be free and play. And it's powerful, and it's hard to put into words just how amazing it was. But, you know, like I said, especially in Guatemala, telling the federation, you know, because they want to celebrate, oh yeah, we brought players down and they're doing clinics, and we're like, no, find these players. I'm telling you, we were just down in, you know, this little village, and 2 girls could play. You know, like, get them on a national, like, get a team together, get a women's team, give them something, give them an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And doesn't it make you like, so I've traveled a lot on different basketball with my sport, but on different basketball projects. And I just think to myself, you know, if I had armed militia guarding my court, would I still play? Like, it's a perspective changer. It's like, do I love the game as much as they do? Because it's impressive to see, you know, what different audiences go through in order to play this sport. And I think that's powerful. And I also think something you said, you know, it didn't matter what language we speak, sport was that universal language. And oftentimes in 2020, I feel like we are not speaking the same language in our own country, and that we need the joy, the laughter, the freedom, the physical movement that sport brings right now so bad. I feel like it has such a role to play in the healing of our country after everything that's happened this year. And, you know, that by that little girl seeing you, you know, it's a spark, it's a catalyst to say there can be more for me. Like, even if it doesn't seem possible, you know, I come from the middle of nowhere, and I was able to go to college on a basketball scholarship. And I tell that story because there is something more out there for people. Yeah. And so I think you traveling and spreading that message is really important. And we're eternally grateful at State for what you've done and continue to do. And so just with the last question, people need good news. We need solutions. I think we have a lot of tremendous momentum as witnessed by this conference. There's incredible investment potential in the women's game to continue to kind of globalize our efforts and professionalize. How do we build on the momentum of last year's World Cup? What does the game need from brands and media, corporate, et cetera, and former athletes, you know, male and female, to really drive this thing over the edge and to have the breakthrough that we've been looking for?
I think a shining example of that is what's happening with Angel City. And you have someone like Natalie Portman who, you know, came and watched a couple national team games and loved the game, loved the energy, you know, met some of the players and loved them. And then, you know, kind of gets this idea of like, you know, why aren't they being paid? And why, you know, and then you have someone like Serena Williams and her husband, Alexis Ohanian, who are watching the World Cup and their daughter's dribbling in front of the TV. And, you know, and he makes a comment about, you know, hey, you know, what if our daughters, and, you know, Serena says, not unless she's going to be paid, you know, and that to him is a light bulb, and he jumps in on this. And so you have, you know, and right now everyone's like, oh, wow, all these amazing A-list actresses and all these, investors and, you know, the national team. So how I got involved with that was they reached out to Julie Foudy and Mia Hamm and said, look, we're starting a women's team, and, you know, kind of laid out the groundwork for that. And Foudy and Mia, being the consummate team players, as always, said, do you realize how many former 99ers are in the SoCal area? And how many former just national teamers are in the SoCal area? And so they said, yeah, see if they want to jump in. And so Julie Foudy sent an email to all of us, and we're like, are you kidding me? Like, what do we're in? And so there's a group of us that have formed an LLC, and we're Angels 12 and a part of Angel City. And it's about, you know, right now, once everyone gets through all the excitement of it, it's really about the game and elevating the game. And this is beyond just, you know, making it something flashy because it's LA. This is about a group of people who truly see that there's a deficit and truly see that it's not okay, and willing to step in and put power behind this and wanting to make sure that they raise the bar and keep pushing that bar as high as possible, and don't let it ever just get set, but just keep reaching for those limits. So it's finding people who just fall in love with the game and have that passion for it, and have the passion for, you know what, the women should be paid just as much, if not more, in some areas. And then building that group, that team around you that are really going to help carry that message. And, you know, we have calls with all the ownerships, and it's hard to be, you know, you're swiping through the Zoom, looking at everybody going, oh my gosh, I'm on a call with Eva Longoria, you know, all this stuff, all these actresses, you know, my son being a Star Wars guy is like, Padme. I'm like, I don't know if she likes to be called Padme. That's Natalie Portman, but, you know, don't geek out on me. But you hear their passion when, you know, the first call is like, why'd you jump in? They're like, because we want to elevate. We, you know, it's women power. We have to support each other and elevate each other, and just really finding a group that's going to believe in that. And it's going to be a brand new team. And by the time this team kicks off in 2022, it's going to be insane. And it's just going to be electric to be in that stadium, as it should be. And I think that's going to help hopefully have a trickle effect throughout the league, and throughout the world, you know, seeing, like you said, you know, Brazil stepping up. It wasn't too long ago that, you know, Brazil didn't think women should even have the right to play. You know, when we started WSA back in 2000, we got some of the Chinese players from the infamous 99 team. And remember talking to them, and they're like, we started playing when we were 12, because before we were always told no. And we're like, I started playing when I was 5. You know, I have a 7-year jump on you. And now you see the equity, you know, the parity around the world, because these other countries are now saying, yeah, you know, Man City should have a women's team, and Man U, and all these leagues that, you know, are building and having opportunity for the women. So it's a snowball. I think, you know, we need to keep talking about it. It can't just be every 4 years when there is a World Cup. We need to keep building on the momentum, which is why it's exciting to see Angel City come about after the World Cup, and to keep building on that. And they're going to kick off right before the next World Cup, and then help use that. So keep building, keep supporting, and just finding the right people that are in it for the right reasons. Not just to say, oh yeah, I own a pro team, but you know what? I'm investing in these young girls and women in general.
I'm pumped. Like, I'm ready to watch. Let's go. I just feel like, maybe this is the first time in history that women have, accumulated the wealth and the influence needed to then turn around and reinvest in the game. And so I think this is a tipping point. I think it's a really important moment that there was Title IX, then there was the rise of the 99ers and other sports. Now you see Serena and some of the others who are at the forefront, and this band together, the sisterhood, this creation of like more women in government, more women in Hollywood, more women at the, in the C-suite, more women in sport. And so you can see the levers of society changing as women continue to band together and reinvest back in the industry. So very cool. Yes. I think we are almost out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for today. You're a rock star, just as I knew you would be. Welcome, Marios and Athens Women's Football, for hosting this incredible event and really for driving us all forward. It's an honor to work with you and the team, and I look forward to doing this again next year with you, Shannon, in Athens.
And I think, the fact that there even is this event now speaks volumes to how far we've come, and that men like Marios see the value and, really wants to invest and wants, this is about him pushing the game forward. So I'm so thankful to have met him, grateful to be here with you, Ashleigh. And I'm telling you, set on my balcony, we're in Athens next year for sure. Count me in. My little man will be there with me. I'm bringing my whole family. He might not come back, but I look forward to it. And events like this are so important to really highlight and spotlight what more we can do and to celebrate how far we've come.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Well, take care of yourself this week.
Likewise. Stay safe.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.